Good morning, everybody. Um, let's just start with that beautiful Torah opening nigun that Natan taught us at Woodstock Jewish Congregation, 25 years ago, which was my very first exposure to Hasidic teachings. Galeinai ve'abita niflaot mitoratecha. Galeinai ve'abita niflaot mitoratecha. Galeinai ve'abita niflaot mitoratecha. Galeinai ve'abita niflaot mitoratecha. And I think it's something like open my eyes, God. So open our eyes, God, that so that we can see the wonders of the Torah. And it's fitting to kind of frame the presentation on this Parsha, Chukat, in song, because this is a Parsha where, again, there's just calamity and tragedy and violence, and we want to go back to Egypt, and then war, just all this horrors. And it ends on this note of incredible hopefulness because the people learn to sing. So backing up from that, in Chukat, we're still in the book of Numbers, and all of a sudden we wake up and realize 38 years have passed. The people have been wandering for 38 years, even though the promised land, it's close enough so that last week we sent a little team there to check it out. So 38 years have vanished, and there's still no movement. So what are the instructions? What does this people need? And what they get is that 2 out of 3 of their main leaders die in this parsha, Miriam and Aaron, sister and brother, with incredible ripples, which I'll get into. And it's becoming clearer and clearer again and again that, Moses is going to die. So this is what they're getting. So what are they supposed to do? Well, the first instruction is to go and find a red heifer. And I'm not going to actually spend all that much time on the red heifer, just to say, though, that is how this parsha starts, that this searching for a red heifer, one that doesn't even have one white whisker or hair or one black whisker or hair, is what the entire people must do. And then there's all kinds of rules of what they are to do with it, which of course involve immolating it, because that's what they did in those days. But the way I read this is it's an impossible instruction. And maybe one of the reasons it starts with this impossible instruction is so that the people start to understand that it's to build a society that can really hold and create and thrive in a land of abundance, a land where human thirst is satisfied, that the people need to really work together, even on tasks that seem impossible. and that the people need to go through this process, that, as one individual person, there's no way this is going to happen. It seems to me to be uh, how Torah defines a miracle, which is something that's outside of the laws of physicality as we know them. That even if you don't believe that there's such a thing, even if you have no faith that you as an individual could achieve this, that the belief that when we act together as a people, um, we can encounter the world and miracles will happen. So maybe that's the beginning of the instruction. And of course, there's so many other possibilities for what this could mean. And that's part of it, to draw us in collectively to engage with what does this mean, and what does it mean for our lives. So what I want to do is tie in this collective search for a red heifer, and there's no explanation of why, what, who. So it's really is drawing on our collective imagination to figure out a meaning for this. I want to tie that in to the whole part of this week's Parsha where Torah lays out step by step, Miriam dies. There is no water. The people collapse again. Why did you bring us out here to die of thirst? And Moses does hear the inspired voice of leadership telling him what to do, and he gets it wrong. And most Jewish commentators historically say that because he got this wrong, this is why Moses and Aaron will not enter the promised land. So this is what I want to kind of talk about. I've been wrestling with this. One commentary I read says that Torah gives one reason for why Moses isn't entering the promised land, and it's because there's no water and he doesn't follow the instructions, which you could think of as the Chukat, the way that we are supposed to be living in harmony, in synergy, in the flow of how life itself is organized. That because he doesn't get that, he doesn't get the role of human beings in that. That's why Moses isn't going to enter the promised land. So a lot of the commentators say, to them, that's clear. Torah gives that one reason, but that through the ages, the commentators have given 13 reasons. So this is how we wrestle with it. So Miriam dies and there's no water. And in our time, we are so wrestling with this idea, that this awareness that water is life, right? And the way it's really emerged in the Americas, I think in particular, is to learn that how can we learn from the indigenous people this respect for water, this understanding that water is life, this understanding that water cannot belong to anyone. And of course, in particularly the Hasidic tradition, and this is another reason I wanted to start with the Hasidic tale, Torah itself is the water, right? So what happened? The guiding voice that Moses hears says, water, these people want water. Go, Moses, and speak to that rock and they'll get water. And Moses goes, and instead of speaking to the rock, he strikes the rock, and he strikes it twice. So I've been reading about what are in the age-old tradition, and then in what resonates for me, what are these are metaphors for something, and it's so full. So one thing I learned from the Netiv, the Ha'amek Dvar, who was a great teacher in the time of my grandfather and from the area where my grandfather came from. So sometimes I think, oh, maybe this is my ancestral learning lineage, said that uh, Moses got angry at the people, and that's why he struck the rock. Even though there's no actual sign in the languaging of Torah at this point that God was angry at the people, Moses got angry. So now we're into Miriam dies, there's no water, the people are thirsty. They're thirsty. And Moses doesn't understand, what are they thirsty for? And Moses gets angry. And what the Nativ says is that uh, in the tradition, that the source of anger is seen as the forgetting of the Torah. I learned this from Aviva Zornberg's book, Bewilderment, which is this amazing book about the entire book of Numbers. So when here, this is a people, and here Moses is this prophet who has been receiving like direct instructions about how things can flow, and that when you forget that, when human beings forget that, wow, whatever's happening, this is how things flow, that is the source of anger. So I thought this is a whole beautiful meditation on anger and the source of anger, and an invitation for us to look at when there are things to grieve and be upset with, when it turns to anger, what is it that we have become disconnected from? So that's one of the pieces of Torah that I think really speaks to me in this day. And so then back to the striking of the rock to bring out the water. Um, Torah is water, right? We're in a state of anger. We have forgotten the Torah, and we're striking the rock to get water. So we're striking the rock to get Torah, to open again the flow of water, which the people have lost also because they're thirsty. They're thirsty for Torah. They're thirsty for faith, right? I mean, 38 years have passed. And by the way, these are all orphans now, right? Except for like 5 of them, right? Because as we've already learned, not one of the original people who came out of Egypt, by this time, their carcasses are, the desert is littered with them. And these people's parents and ancestors. So of course they're thirsty for faith. Like, what is, are we ready for this? We weren't even at Sinai, or we were kids at Sinai. So do we speak to the rock? Because this is the instruction. I wrote down the words here. Yud He Vav He, the mystical life energy, tells Moses, speak water from the rock. One of the translations puts it like this: before their very eyes, order the rock to yield its water. Wow. So somehow Moses is getting the next level of instruction of how to bring the word out of exile. And there's a whole thread in the Jewish tradition that what the entire journey is about, and what the wilderness is that the people, the result of enslavement has been the exile of the word. So now here are these instructions. With your word, get the rock to yield its water. And there's so much I think, incredible beauty in this. First of all, Moses, your sister has just died. She knew how to make this connection between humans, the created beings that have the gift of word. She knew how to make the connection between that and water, that and rock, things that we think of as the inanimate world. So for these people to go into this promised land without Miriam, without Aaron, without you, they need these secrets. Help them understand these secrets. So the leadership that is needed at this point in time is our leaders who can reveal the secrets of how human beings can live not only in harmony with the world, but in this resonant relationship with the world, which is so much as I understand them, the indigenous ways. But Moses, instead of speaking to the rock and creating a flow, creating an I thou relationship with the rock to get it to yield its water, he strikes the rock. He doesn't teach them words. He doesn't bring the word out of exile. So some of the other traditional thinking about this that I found was, so instead of instructing them in Torah, instead of showing them how to use words of Torah uh, to quench thirst, how we can, our next spiritual evolution, right, is to learn as beings how to bring our words into the flow of satisfying life, enriching life, uplifting life. Instead of that, he turned to violence. And it succeeded, right? I mean, the short run succeeded. Like, he struck the rock, and water flowed. But the implication of all of this is that the only thing we are thirsty for is physical satisfaction. And of course, Torah is saying, no, 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 no. With faith, with emunah, that will bring us to the individual and collective actions, so that earth, we are respectful about what earth produces. We practice the Shemitah. We take only what we need. We rest. We give what is needed to people who don't have it. Torah is full of all these instructions, but it comes from this next elevation of consciousness, the spiritual elevation of consciousness, to learn to use our words in ways that open the flow of the universe, that connect us to the inherent flow. And I read this beautiful mystical line that I wrote down. Maybe the world was created so that if you sang to a rock, water would come out. So this is the actual realm of miracle, in the sense of us coming to understand that through language, even a rock may be moved from here to there. And that's from the Maharal, that through language, which is, what humans have, this ability of vast language. I know other animals, we learn more and more, and beings do have language. We have our language, and our language, through our language, the Maharal wrote, even a rock may be moved from here to there, from jagged dryness to vital flow. And this is what the Maharal, was it very early, from Prague, I think maybe 1600s. I think he might have lived that early. He said that this is actually what Emunah is, and that this is what produces joy. And I love that the tradition really connects bringing the word out of exile, believing that we can make the most miraculous things happen when we find the right words that are in the flow of life, that this is the source of joy and emunah, and that what this parsha is saying is that if we want to inhabit a promised land, it's not going to come through anger and striking a rock. It's going to come through joy and emunah. Um, and oh, all right. So I'm just going to skip some other things that I had, and I just want to say that this is also looked at as testing, that Moses is being tested, and that this is the supreme test that Moses failed, which may or may not be true. But I want to end with an invitation that as we go through the week to look at what are the rocks that we are attempting to communicate with in our lives, in our own hearts, the frozen, solid, impenetrable, seemingly impenetrable, or people in our lives, uh, or huge issues like war and climate catastrophe. How can we take a leap of faith and believe that what seems to be impenetrable, uh, Putin and Trump, all of it, how can we find this leap of faith that if we find the right words, the right approach, that everything can be penetrated, that word can penetrate anything. And this is how Torah begins, right? There's this tohu vavohu and the word, and everything comes to be. So in our own lives, how can we, just stop and go, okay, this is like, seems like my words are never going to penetrate this person. And the only alternative is violence, striking. How can we start to cultivate the consciousness that this is possible? And then, as much as possible, live that way. So then we are living in a promised land right here, right now, and creating that for our children. So, thank you.